evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Vincent Price, and welcome to my world. It is indeed an honor for me to guide you through the Horror Hall of Fame, where you'll meet the great stars who made your flesh crawl, where you'll see scenes from your favorite motion pictures that gave you nightmares, and actually feel the presence of the slimy, shadowy shapes that brought cardiac arrest to the masses. What's that you say? You don't believe there is a Horror Hall of Fame? Try and move your neck. For those of you who are faint of heart and weak of stomach, I must warn you, this program is filled with chills, suspense, horror, the weird and the gruesome. It's a lot like Let's Make a Deal. Tonight you're privileged to be the first to enter the Horror Hall of Fame, an evening I'm sure you won't forget. Good evening, Zuckman. You're right on time. Yes, it has been a long time, Zuckman. He always was a leg man. Is everything in order? Except you. Good. By the way, Zuckman is the curator of the Horror Hall of Fame and the world's foremost authority on horror. Ta-da! He was raised by a family of wealthy vampires. Some say he was born with a silver fang in his mouth. Oh, thank you, Zuckman. Thank you. Zuckman. Oh, yeah. Thank you so much, Zuckman. Oh, dear. There's no place like home. And being with all my old fiends, I mean my old friends again, here in the Horror Hall of Fame room. The most famous names in the world of horror, the unholy three. Lon Chaney Sr., the man of 1,000 faces, who will forever be remembered for his Hunchback of Notre Dame and the Phantom of the Opera. Boris Karloff, who came to us as a Christmas present in 1931 as Frankenstein's monster. And the 500-year-old undying Count Dracula, the great vampire figure, Bela Lugosi. Now, Lon Chaney Sr. left us a son, Lon Chaney Jr. His contribution was the unfortunate lycanthrope Larry Talbot, the Wolf Man. And who can forget the Lord High Minister of all that is sinister, Peter Lorre. Peter first came to the attention of the American horror fans in the picture Mad Love. It was later remade by Doris Day, called Pillow Talk.
I don't find your mawkish sense of humor very amusing, Mr. Price. One more comedic outburst, and I shall be forced to remove your tongue and use it as a topping for my antipasto. She's married to my Uncle Pasto. Uncle Pasto and antipasto.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome the brilliant actor whose fine characterizations have immortalized so many luminaries in the Horror Hall of Fame, Mr. Frank Gorshin. Frank!
Very nice of you, Vincent.
Very nice of you.
Very nice of you. Sit down. You're making fun of me.
No, I'm not at all.
Vincent, it's nice to be here.
It's nice to have you here.
It's outside. It's raining outside, and my car broke down. The bridge is out, and
I need a place to stay for the night.
Well, you're in luck. We happen to have a spare room. That's if you don't mind sleeping in the mausoleum with a stiff.
Why should I mind? I once shared a dressing room with Ed Sullivan. That's cool.
That makes perfect good sense. Frank, you've done so many impersonations of very famous people, but I think some of your best are the horror stars.
When I was a kid, I always loved going to see a spooky picture, a horror picture, you know, with Boris Karloff or Bela Lugosi and that kind of people. And the monsters they played were so believable. I mean, these people were great actors.
Yes, they were.
The monsters that they created were real. They had soul, whatever it was. But anyway, they would scare so much that a person watching the movie would, at least this was true of myself, you know, I found that fascinating. I wanted to do it, and I found myself scaring the whole family. And with my brother, I would carry on with him. And to this day, I change my kid's diaper like Bela Lugosi.
You know,
it's time to change your diaper. Shame on you. Shame on you.
Boris was an extraordinary man. Did you ever know him? Did you know him, Boris? Huh? Karloff?
No,
He was a very brave and a really strong man. You know, he was very badly crippled at the end of his life, and yet he would go right ahead and play, get out of his wheelchair and work.
Yeah, he must have been a nice man.
He was a wonderful man. You have a very funny story about him that I like.
I was just going to mention that. I did a recording of a single on which I did an impression of Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
I forget which studio it was here in town, but I left the studio, and then after I finished, Boris Karloff himself, so I found out the next day, came in because he had to record something, and the people in the studio played my impression of him.
Yes.
And I was told then that he listened to it and found it amusing, and afterwards he said, "That's very nice, but I don't lisp."
How do you do? I knocked, but there was no answer, so I took the liberty of entering.
The signs clearly say to keep out. You must have seen them.
Yes, I saw them.
Then by what right have you entered this house?
I've come to visit the Whitleys.
Oh? I am now Whitley.
Well, sir, actually, it's Susan I came to visit.
Susan? My daughter's not receiving visitors. I must ask you to leave.
Is the way you treat all your guests?
Guests? Guests are invited. I don't remember having invited you.
Now, who are some of the others? Peter Lorre. Peter used to do the greatest imitation of himself. I did a lot of pictures with him, and he'd hold his nose like that, and then it sounded just like Peter Lorre.
But nobody knows that, excepting you and me. It's our little secret. And now, I shall pray to you for the last time.
How about Lugosi? Do a little Lugosi.
No, I do, but I just did. I changed my kid's diapers. The other guy, who played the mummy? Was it Karloff?
That was Karloff, too.
Oh, it was Karloff?
Yes, yeah.
You know, I loved doing the mummy.
Yes, I did, too.
I used to do him. What fascinated me, can you see John Wayne playing the mummy? I would always love it was like in a picture, you'd see Turhan Bey or John Carradine cooking the tannel leaves. And then our friend Karras, Karras was his name.
Yes.
Karras would get up and he would walk. He would stalk the night like that. And he was so spooky. And he never walked any faster than that.
No, never.
That always amazed me, because whenever he was chasing somebody, no matter how fast they were running.
No, he caught them, though, eventually. He just tired them out. Lugosi, I think, I would love to have met him, but as a matter of fact, I did do one personal appearance tour with him very early on in my career. And he was really a mysterious man. He never was around. He just sort of would disappear. He'd come out on the stage, and then nobody knew where he went.
Well, he turned into a bat.
I think so.
This vampire business, it has given me a great idea for a new act. Luna, in this new act, I will be the vampire. Did you watch me? I gave all of me. I was greater than any real vampire.
Thank you, Fred, for gracing the Horror Hall of Fame.
Oh, that's enough.
All right. We shall return with more chills and gore in a moment.
Oh, how delightful. That shall give me a chance to slip into my laboratory and have my neck recharged. Did you ever see me do John Wayne? Backwards?
Boo. Did I frighten you? Good. You know, thanks to your hearty appetite, horror films have never been more popular than they are today. Have you seen the lines of people trying to get in to see The Exorcist? As a matter of fact, we have a special wing in the Horror Hall of Fame for today's films. Films that have produced new and exciting stars, like England's Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee, the current popular incarnation of Count Dracula. And, of course, this gentleman, bon vivant, art critic, gourmet, lady killer.
Your hands will shake and he too will die under your knife. A few remaining minutes are all you have. Because when the acid reaches him, he will have a face like mine.
And modern horror films are not restricted to any one race or creed. Recently, the first black horror film was released and won the coveted Count Dracula Award for Best Vampire Film of the Year. Now gaze upon the creation of Count Blackula.
With my name, you shall be Blackula, vampire, like myself, a living fiend. You will be doomed never to know that sweet blood which will become your only desire.
And proof of man's eternal fascination with the classic moral issue, whether good or evil will triumph. It's totally illustrated by the monstrous success of The Devil Possessed in the horrifying experience of The Exorcist.
Of course, there is one outside chance for a cure. But, I think of it as a shock treatment. As I said, it's a very outside chance.
Would you just name
so...
it, for God's sakes? What is it?
Do you have any religious beliefs?
No.
What about your daughter?
No. Why?
You ever heard of exorcism? Well, it's a stylized ritual in which the rabbi or the priest try to drive out the so-called invading spirit. It's been pretty much discarded these days, except by the Catholics who keep it in the closet as a sort of an embarrassment. But it has worked, in fact, although not for the reasons they think. Of course, it's purely a force of suggestion. The victim's belief in possession is what helped cause it. So in that same way, the belief in the power of exorcism can make it disappear.
You're telling me that I should take my daughter to a witch doctor. Is that it?
Father Karras.
It's an honor to meet you, Father.
Are you very tired?
No.
I'd like you to go quickly across to the residence, Damien, and gather up a cassock for myself, 2 surplices, a purple stole, and some holy water. And your copy of the Roman ritual, the large one. I believe we should begin.
Do you want to hear the background of the case first, Father?
Why?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce... A Liberace you ain't. Zuckman. This is the first time he's played before a live audience. Maestro, a little mood music, please. We are now in the famous laboratory of the Horror Hall of Fame, presided over by the great-great-grandson of the original Dr. Frankenstein, Dr. Murray Frankenstein, who has devoted the last 25 years of his life to the construction of what I understand to be the greatest monster in the history of mankind. Tonight, he has agreed to devote a few minutes of his precious time to us. Good evening, Doctor. Oh. I am sorry, Doctor. I didn't mean to frighten you. But you know, there are so many of us who are so very curious about your project.
Project?
Yes.
Just a mere project? Mr. Price, I have labored for 25 years on my monster. 25 years out of a man's life, Mr. Price. You call that a project? Mr. Price, my monster is the most hideous, most grotesque, most frightening, most diabolical monster of them all. Did I leave out sinister?
Well, it sounds to me like quite, well, if you'll excuse the expression, quite an undertaking.
Don't make light of my work, Mr. Price.
Sorry.
There are some who think I have taken leave of my senses. There are some who say I am mad. There are some who even say that I'm insane. Do you?
Well, no, frankly, I just think of you as one of the boys. Now, tell me, how would you describe your monster?
Describe? Oh. Describe my child?
Yes.
It has the strength of 1,000 Samsons, the intellect of Plato and Socrates, the consummate beauty of Cleopatra, Helen of Troy.
With just a touch of Kay Ballard.
And imagine, if you will, Mr. Price, one giant, rotating, baby blue eye embedded in his monstrous head.
Old Blue Eye is back.
Well, now, I must get back to work. Just some electrocardio circuitry, some transistors, some Elmer's glue, and my creation will be complete.
You mean he's almost finished?
Mr. Price, before you leave the Horror Hall of Fame tonight, you and 20 million beady-eyed onlookers will see unveiled my cutie pie. Which camera am I on? And let me assure you, you will not be disappointed.
Well, now it's about time to talk about the horror films which down through the years have become classics. No, not now, Zuckman. No, one of those and I really get ugly. No, why don't you take your little rat for a walk, huh? And don't forget to change his flea collar.
Safe!
Well, let's see now. Where was I? Oh, yes, the classics. Since 1897, there have been over 7,000 pure horror films made. The most popular, and one that's been made and remade many times, is Robert Louis Stevenson's classic Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, about the dual nature of man, with the evil split off taking dominance over the good side. Dr. Jekyll was actually the first man who could truthfully say, "The devil made me do it." Now, who could ever forget Conrad Veidt as the shrouded night figure in the cabinet of Dr. Caligari, or the menacing presence of Paul Wegener in The Golem? And then, in 1922, from Germany, came the first surviving Dracula film, Nosferatu, magnificently interpreted by a skeleton of a man, Max Schreck, and the never-to-be-forgotten Lon Chaney Sr. as the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and his unforgettable portrayal of Eric of the Catacombs in The Phantom of the Opera. Those who saw him finally unmasked as the Phantom gazed, as one critic said, upon the naked face of horror. Whenever he went to a restaurant, he always got the best table.
And then there is a Charter member of the Horror Hall of Fame who has lent his poesque presence to innumerable great horror films.
And that can be only one man, the frighteningly distinguished Mr. John Carradine. John, lovely to see you again.
Nice to see you, Vinny.
Thank you.
In a long time.
It has been a long time.
I think the last time we saw each other was in a film which, while it was not a horror film, was certainly a horror.
Yes, it was a long one, that's for sure. John, you know, you have been connected with the classics and with horror films, but I think one of the fascinating things to go back into is the background of horror in the theater. Tell us a little bit about it.
Goes a long way back.
Yes.
I did one of those original horror plays on Broadway with Elizabeth Bergner.
What was that?
The Duchess of Malfi, by John Webster, who was a contemporary of Shakespeare.
And the whole Jacobean theater actually was based on horror and revenge.
And then, of course, there's always a little touch of the Grand Guignol, too,
yes.
Which helps a bit.
Yes, it does. A few heads rolling on the floor. Never heard a picture in the world. I think one of the most fascinating ones was a surrealist film, really, that went way beyond its time. 20 years later, you know, I met the man who played in it, Conrad Veidt. He came up to the door one time to ask his way somewhere, and I nearly fainted. It was The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. The second one you saw, the first one you saw
was... The first one I saw was The Golem.
Yes, tell us about that a little.
I don't remember it very much. I was only about 14 years old.
I remember it took place in Prague, in the ghetto, and the man was made of clay, and that he was born to slay. I think that's what got me to go to the theater. He was made to help the situation, but then he turned on the people. The Golem, a real frightener.
I think he was the first sort of robot character.
Yes, he was. Yeah. And he wore the Star of David on his shoulder.
And you pushed it. You pushed it and he did things.
Look at that face. Look at that face. Oh,
there he is.
What a Superman. Yes.
Didn't they push that star?
Yes, no. He took the star off of him, you see, and then that killed him. And, my Lord, people have been doing that to me for years.
And they fall forward.
Yes. With that headpiece on, he had to turn back. Tell us something about John Barrymore, who was a great friend of yours. I only met him once, and I've always been jealous of you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, you know, he had his own sense of the macabre.
Yes.
He owned a vulture, which he bought in Chile, or in Peru. Peru, I think it was. And he used to sit on a perch in his home up on Tower Road.
Yeah.
And they would sit together, nose to nose. And Barrymore thought it was love. Until he went on the wagon, and then the vulture would have nothing to do with him. You see, it was his alcoholic breath the vulture will act.
I like it. He was a magnificent actor. His Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde was a performance I'll never forget.
He wore no makeup.
He wore no makeup at all.
Only that gave him a kind of conical head, but he didn't wear any makeup. It was all done by facial expression.
Here, look, see, there he is now. He's taking the drink.
I used to rehearse this when I was 12 years old with a glass of water and vinegar and some soda bicarb. I'd foam up and I'd take the potion and go through all the agony. I've been reading about Mansfield doing it.
It's divine. Now, let's see what he does here. He really, the hands, of course, played an enormous part, didn't they?
You know, he had short, stubby fingers, and he hated them. He was always dangling them so they'd look long and artistic.
That's true, because you'd never know that, would you? It looks like
the way he used them.
Tremendous long. Look at the face.
It's no makeup.
No. You know, so many of these pictures have been made and remade, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, and I think that we all remember, at least I remember, Chaney Sr.
Well,
And Lawton was marvelous, but it didn't have the pathos,
I've never seen anyone do it but Chaney, and I don't think I want to.
No, look at this fabulous scene where he's pushing that bell. You have a feeling of the weight.
I bet it was heavy.
I bet it was, too. I remember working on that set years ago. Is that Mary Philbin or Patsy Ruth Miller? That's who it was.
Was that Patsy?
Patsy Ruth Miller. She played Esmeralda.
There was Mary Philbin in Phantom of the Opera.
In the Phantom of the Opera, you're absolutely
Rod LaRocque.
And Rod LaRocque, yes. Yes, indeed. Yeah. Oh, boy. John, you played in quite a few horror films.
No, it wasn't Rod LaRocque. It was Norman Carey.
It was Norman Carey. Yes,
Carey,
it was indeed.
Yes, yeah.
But, you know, you and I have never played in a horror film together.
No, and I've never played a monster.
I never played a monster.
I was offered one and turned it down.
Yeah.
I turned down Frankenstein.
Well, after doing...
Boris took it.
You're kidding.
I turned it down.
You're kidding.
No, I'm not.
Oh, that's
They sent me out to the makeup department, and the makeup man started mixing up a bowl of plaster, and I, being a sculptor, knew just what he was up to.
Yeah.
He made a life mask, and I said, wait a minute, what is this? What is this?
Yeah.
He said, this is, you play a monster. I said, oh, do I have any dialogue? He said, no. I said, I don't have any dialogue? No, you're just blunt. I said, this is not for me, and I walked out.
Oh, dear.
3 months later, they got Boris, and he took it.
It did
I never regretted it, and he never ceased to regret it.
But now you and I did do something sort of vaguely in common. I did the second Invisible Man picture, The Invisible Man Returns. And let's see, now, you know, in talking about the other...
I did a bit in the first one.
In the first one you
I
did.
played a Somersetshire yokel with a frowsy mustache, a muffler, and a bowler hat who goes to a phone booth and calls the police and says, I just saw the Invisible Man.
The Phantom of the Opera was played by several people, wasn't it? It was played by, let's see, of course, Lon Chaney Sr. to begin with. I think that there's Mary Philbin, look, see?
Yeah.
And she's going to take off the mask. Oh, I remember this
He's
scene.
sitting at the organ.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
and he turns around, and your blood turns cold.
Oh, don't take it off, Mary. Don't. No, that's right. No, don't. Oh, she's going to do it. John, thank you for honoring the Horror Hall of Fame with your presence.
Well, then it's always an honor for me to be with you in Tennessee.
Thank you. It's wonderful to see you again. And I'll have Zuckman show you to the door.
Oh, never mind the door. I'll just seep through the wall.
John? 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 You know, he does that when the check comes, too. I wonder if the producers of the first horror films back in the early 1900s ever understood that they truly created a monster. Millions upon millions of dollars are spent annually on not only the price of admission to horror movies, but on all sorts of horror merchandise. Look at it. Horror books, mass records, models, posters, novelties, you name it. And there are even those who poke a little fun at us. Even television gave us horror with humor, like the dating game, and the enormously successful Addams Family, which starred an extremely versatile and fine actor, John Astin.
Oh, don't stop, please. It's so soon.
Darling, I've almost worn out the drill.
Sharpen it up, sharpen it up.
Now, dear, too much of a good thing.
Rita, please. You were just hitting a nerve.
Well, just one more time.
And now the Horror Hall of Fame welcomes Mr. John Astin. John, please be seated. I would like to make you feel at home. This is your kind of house, isn't it?
Thank you. Yeah, it's very cozy.
I must say, I was a tremendous fan of the Addams Family and of Charles Addams, forever and ever.
Well, so was I.
Yes. But it was such a fun show. It was kind of a healthy show.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. A couple of articles appeared by psychiatrists saying that the Addams Family was probably the healthiest show on the air because, in spite of the fact that it was a weird family to the outside world, it was a very loving family. And,
it was.
There was a great deal of communication. I never thought of it as a horror show.
No, I never did either. It was a comedy.
Just sort of like Home.
Yeah. That scene we just saw with the dentist, I mean, that was really homey.
Yeah, I think what Addams did in the cartoons really gave me the key for my character, and I always thought he was spoofing the cliche.
Yeah.
And using the device of horror, such as "May I borrow a cup of cyanide?"
Yes, I love it. I love it. And Carolyn Jones and Jackie Coogan, all those super
Cassidy,
people. Yes, they were a wonderful bunch of people.
Wonderful to work with and very, very talented.
What do you think of all this stuff? I think it's kind of fun.
Well, the horror business is really something today. You know, you can take a walk along Hollywood Boulevard. You can see Frankenstein faces and vampire fangs, weird, freaky creatures, every shape and color, and that's without going into the stores.
You say that again. And don't forget Wax Lips.
How could I forget Wax Lips?
Remember Wax Lips? She was a lovely girl, wasn't she?
Yes.
Now, for example, here is one of the world's best-selling magazines, The Famous Monsters of Filmland. It's edited by one of the foremost authorities on horror, Forrest J. Ackerman. This is a kind of cartoon of him, but I love it.
He's from Horrorwood, California.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Forgive me for that.
And there's even here's
Phantom of the Opera. Oh,
this one.
You know, this is. I believe this is patterned after Fred Gwynne, who played Herman Munster.
That's right, on the Munsters. And here is, you know, a Phantom of the Opera model. It glows in the dark. See? And here's a Godzilla model. And that one glows in the dark, too. And during the energy crisis, you can ride it to work.
Well, I think you have a monster cookbook back there.
Yes, there is one, yes.
It's Eye of Newt, Pate of Yak, some of your favorites.
Very good.
And 33 ways to make goulash. And there's also a recipe in there for the official cocktail. Of
What's that?
Your cocktail, the Horror Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
2 parts vodka, 2 parts embalming fluid, leaves you breathless for 11 years.
And let us not forget horror fashions.
I won't forget them.
No, very big thing. There he is, the lovely Zuckman. The lovely Zuckman is wearing the latest in monster T-shirts. This model is a size 48 portly cadet, extra short. It comes in medium, large, and bent over. No.
I suppose we've had a lot of fun with horror in the last few years.
Yeah, some people have gone too far, though. You know, imagine Billy the Kid meets Dracula, and Bambi meets Godzilla. Now, wasn't that just sweet? Instead of hatching a baby dinosaur, she hatched a baby chick.
I didn't remember the title. I saw that movie 5 times.
That was from dinosaurs, when dinosaurs ruled the earth. And believe me, they knew exactly what they were doing, too. And John Landis, a young filmmaker, gave us some real schlock. He parodied almost every horror film from Frankenstein to 2001 and created a monster who killed for bananas, a giant schlocktopus.
Birth of a Nation. Then, Gone with the Wind. 2001, A Space Odyssey. Love Story. See you next Wednesday. And now, Schlock. There is no place to hide. No one is safe from Schlock. 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 Schlock.
John, this past year, they revived one of the greatest songs of all time. Remember it?
That's right, the Monster Mash.
Monster Mash. Yes, I'd very much like to hear that.
He did the Monster Mash. It was a graveyard smash. It caught on in a flash. He did the Monster Mash. From my life recording the castle east.
Yeah. Now, Dr. Frankenstein, it appears that your cutie pie is about to take shape.
Have no fear, Mr. Price. My monster will be completed on schedule. I won't fail. All that's remaining is to get his heart started.
Well, if you can't get it started, Doctor, just call the auto club.
I am not amused.
Well, now, this is the entrance to the Horror Hall of Fame dungeon. Don't be alarmed. We no longer carry out tortures and brutality here. The stretching rack, the Chinese boot, the bed of knives, all those goodies are gone. Now, as you will see, it is our makeup room. And it's proven very useful, because when actors get into full horror makeup, they get a little weird sometimes, and some of them have to be locked up. I know a few actors who should be locked up without makeup. But enough about Phyllis Diller. Now, let's welcome a man who lives with the many faces of horror, because he is the artist who creates and designs the various kinds of monster makeup. He won the very first Oscar ever awarded for outstanding makeup achievement for The 7 Faces of Dr. Lowe. Mr. William Tuttle. Bill? How are you? Great to see you again. Well, we worked a long time ago together in the Three Musketeers.
Three Musketeers.
You were head of makeup at MGM at that time.
Right.
Tell me about some of the people that you've made up over the years. There's a photo over there of Bela Lugosi. What was that in?
Well, that was for the very first picture I worked as a makeup artist.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
And that was called Mark of the Vampire. Jay Novello is in Atlantis, and this is one of the stages of his transition from man into animal. This is Arthur O'Connell in a picture in which he was placed in a centrifuge and whirled at a terrific rate of speed, facing outward. The next is Tony Randall as the Abominable Snowman.
One of the difficult things, it always seems to me, is to take a very pretty woman. Like, I know that you did Sophia Loren in The Lady L. What did you do to her? I mean, you had to make her age?
Yes, she had to be, 80 to 85 was the age that they
How old was she when she was young? I mean,
she was 18 to 20.
18 to 20, oh.
And with Sophia, that's quite a challenge to, acquire 80 years.
I know. I think that one of the things that is always frightening is the agony that you go through putting on makeup. But we're going to give you a real challenge tonight, Bill. We're going to put you to the supreme test. You are going to make a monster out of one of Hollywood's prettiest and most talented young ladies. She was the star, or one of the stars, in one of the biggest hits now, the American Graffiti. And so, may I introduce you to Miss Candy Clark? Candy, I must say, that's a lovely place to come out of. Isn't she? What do you think now? Take a look at that, Bill. That's a challenge, isn't it?
That is a challenge.
Huh?
Think you can make me
I don't know why it is. I always get the most difficult jobs to do.
Well, Bill, you get to work, and you just wait a minute, and we'll see how Bill Tuttle gets along with Candy Clark.
Any calls from me?
Oh, these short naps are so refreshing. You know, there's a portion of Hungary and Romania known as Transylvania. It is the home of the vampire. As everyone knows, a vampire cannot move among mortals by day, and by day he must remain or lie in a coffin in the original earth in which he was buried. However, at night he leaves the coffin and seeks his life-giving force, the blood of humans. There is nothing so deadly to a vampire as the rays of the sun, for in a matter of moments he will crumble and turn into dust. However, if you take a pinch of the vampire dust and add fresh blood, the vampire comes back to life. In some circles, they also add a drop of vermouth, dry, of course. However, most vampires are killed by driving a stake into their heart, but with the cost of stakes today, it's hard to keep a good vampire down. It's not very good, is it? No. The most famous of all vampires is Count Dracula. Did he exist? Does he exist? Well, our next guest knows all about that. He is Raymond T. McNally. He's co-author of In Search of Dracula and Dracula, a biography of Vlad the Impaler. Raymond. Good to see you. Good to see you. Last time we met was on a talk show in New York, and we were tasting wine. This time, let's have a little taste of blood, shall we? Now, tell me something. The Dracula legend is based upon Vlad Cepis, is it?
Cepis.
Cepis, huh?
It means impaler in Romanian.
Cepis does,
Yes.
I see. And he was supposed to have avenged his father and his brother's death. They were buried alive, I believe. And he impaled some 100,000 people.
Yes, he was a killer on a massive scale.
Oh, boy. And that word for, the word for devil in Romanian is Dracula, huh?
Yes, actually his father was called Dracu, and he's called Dracula, son of the devil.
Well, one thing that's fascinating is that recently we had a tremendously successful movie called Blackula.
Yes,
about a black Dracula. Blackula, very simple title.
Yes.
That's what I couldn't tell you about.
Raymond, you're a real authority on all the myths and legends connected with Dracula, but one of them that really fascinates me is why Dracula, why the vampire, doesn't throw a reflection in a mirror.
Well, what they consider in the folklore is that someone who has a soul has an image, and hence has a reflection in a mirror. But the vampire has no real soul. It's an undead, and without a soul or a life principle, it casts no reflection. For example, when a Romanian death takes place, they take the mirrors and face them to the wall, because the soul can become trapped in the mirror. That is the soul of someone who's been alive.
It's like the Indians breaking a pot to let the soul out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it also is expressed in the fear of people to have their images taken, you know, photographs taken of themselves. What will someone do with your image?
Yes.
Well, if you're a vampire, you don't really have an image because you're undead. Don't have a soul.
I see, yes. One of the other things that fascinates me, too, is the myth about sunlight. I mean, that obviously the dead wouldn't like sunlight, but the wooden stake for killing a vampire.
Yes, this is traditionally practiced in Slavic countries and also in Romania. The stake has to be made from a wild asp or an aspen tree. Sometimes they also use iron bars heated red hot, give it a kind of sizzling effect when it goes in, but mostly it's the stake through the heart. And then it's sort of double insurance, just to make sure, because some fool might come along and pull out the stake someday and you're back with the problem. You have to burn the body. That's really the safest way, because the vampire is not a ghost, or an apparition. It's a real, live, walking corpse. If you get rid of the corpse, it can't walk again. It's not a ghost. See?
I think one of the most exciting scenes I ever saw was one of Chris Lee's films called Dracula Has Risen from the Grave.
Yes.
Oh boy, is that a thrilling scene.
Yes.
Let's look at it.
Quickly, before he wakes. Quickly. You must do it now. I can't! You must, or he won't die!
You pray, you're a priest! You pray, you pray!
He won't die! He isn't going to die!
Well, he didn't make it, did he?
No, he killed out himself.
I know it. That's unfair to organized vampires. Raymond, it's really been thrilling talking to you, and I loved your first book and your second book, and I can't wait to read the third one that's coming up.
Thank you very much.
What is it called?
It's called The Clutch of Vampires.
The Clutch of Vampires. It's like a covey of quail or something.
Actual accounts of real horrors, that is, actual people who say they saw these things occur.
Yeah.
And I think that's what the American people are particularly interested in today, and what makes it different from the late Middle Ages or from the 40s, that is interested in real horror.
Yes.
Actual documented cases of things that really happen, rather than something from someone's wild imagination.
That's fascinating. Thanks a million.
Thank you.
Right. Which brings me to our discussion of monsters, creatures, and beasts. What is a monster? It's a smile turned upside down. It's a frog with a boy in his pocket, a tug on your sleeve, a bite in the neck, a fang in your throat, a stake in your heart, an owl in your soup, and Jack the Ripper nipping at your nose. Over the years, our monsters here in the Horror Hall of Fame have been getting bigger, stronger, and more grotesque than ever. For example, who can forget King Kong fighting off the United States Air Force? Oh, no, it wasn't the airplanes. It was beauty that killed the beast, and I can believe it. Now, I wonder if you knew that many a young actor began his career associating with beasts. So don't believe everything you read in movie magazines. For example, can you picture Michael Landon in I Was a Teenage Werewolf?
Stop him!
That wasn't exactly home on the range. And then young Steve McQueen introduced us to the first frightening, shapeless, amorphous mass. It creeps, it leaps, it slides, it glides. The Blob.
What? Hey, who's in the store? Huh? There's nobody in here but us monsters. Hey, feel it.
remember the fella that crushed cars with a single blow and 8 policemen for breakfast? Of course you do. Ray Bradbury's Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. And do you recall when giant ants ravaged the city of Los Angeles? And these weren't your average, everyday picnic ants. Oh, no. It wasn't your bologna sandwiches they were after. It was you. Them. And speaking of monsters, as you all know, our own Dr. Murray Frankenstein is constructing the most horrifying beast of them all. Let's look in on Dr. Murray Frankenstein now.
Ah, Mr. Price, as always, your timing is perfect. We're about to throw the switch which will activate my monster's brain.
Oh, well, this is the moment we've been waiting for, Doctor. The world will be forever in your debt.
I'm not that kind of doctor, Mr. Price. I don't expect payment for my work. It's payment enough for me to know that I have created the most powerful monster in the world.
Well, let's hope your monster works on the side of good and not evil.
Mr. Price, nobody is perfect.
He should know.
Stand back. Zuckman, throw the switch. Zuckman, did you hear me? I said throw the switch.
Whatever way.
Zuckman, when I say throw the switch, I don't mean throw the switch. I mean throw the switch. So when I say throw the switch, don't throw the switch, throw the switch.
Vincent, I can see it'll be a while before Dr. Frankenstein's monster is completed. Meanwhile, I have something here you may find interesting.
Oh, my lovely Candy Clark, who I can't wait to see her. Imagine a monster with sex appeal. Down, Zuckman, down. Well, he has to have his little scamper, you know. The new Candy Clark. Oh, isn't
I hope
she
you like her.
lovely? She's lovely, Bill.
Thank you.
You're my kind of girl.
Thank you.
You woke me up for this?
I'm glad you don't think of me as just another pretty face.
Well, we'll return to the Horror Hall of Fame as quick as a bat.
Talk about your ring around the collar.
You know, here in the Horror Hall of Fame, we have some authentic and incredible artifacts. I mean, for instance, here's a hand. Well, no, it's a claw. It's a claw from a famous motion picture called The Thing from Another World. And this is the face of Schlock, yes. And this is an android from the Time Traveler, I think it was called, Time Traveler. Not much to look at, but heaven to kiss. And this is the cross that was used to repel the vampire in the motion picture Son of Dracula Meets Charo. You know, in case it didn't work, on the back of it is written Charlton Heston's home phone number.
Vincent Price.
Yes.
The Horror Hall of Fame is proud to announce, this was your life.
This was your life. John, I am not dead yet.
Vincent, that's what they all say. Vincent, your career really blossomed when you played opposite Helen Hayes on Broadway in Victoria, Regina.
Why shouldn't it have blossomed on my first part?
All right, and then you came to Hollywood and you took a giant leap forward. You were the voice of the Invisible Man in Abbott and Costello Meets Frankenstein. You didn't know I knew that,
One of my best parts, absolutely.
And then in 1953, you made your first truly pure horror film, House of Wax.
The House of Wax in 3D. Everything I ever loved has been taken away from me. Not you, my Marie Antoinette, for I will give you eternal life.
House of Wax.
Yes.
And then in 1958, you chilled audiences in the house on the haunted hill, and it was reported that you left a permanent curse on that house.
No, that's not true. No, I went up and exercised it just the other day.
And now, who better than Vincent Price to portray the characters of one of the greatest writers of horror, mystery, and intrigue, Edgar Allan Poe, when you starred in The Pit and The Pendulum.
Do you know where you are, Bartholomew?
Don Medina, I am Francis Barnum.
I will tell you where you are. You are about to enter hell, Bartholomew. Hell! The netherworld, the infernal regions, the abode of the damned, the place of torment, pandemonium, Abaddon, Tophet, Gehenna, Naraka, the pit, and the pendulum. The razor edge of destiny.
And in 1963, you and several of your confreres decided to have a little fun with Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven.
The Raven. Oh, that was the most fun I think I ever had in a picture. And you know, that was Jack Nicholson's first part.
It was?
Yes, one of his very first parts.
It's got a long way since then.
Yeah, I'm not sure. You're not going to drink it.
What did you think I was going to do? Take a bath in it? That's not so bad.
In 1971, a great honor was bestowed upon you when you completed your 100th film, The Abominable Dr. Phibes.
Yes, be sure you get that abominable in there.
Yes.
I thought it was abdominal, but that's not true.
I was there at the premiere.
Were you?
Yes.
Yes, I remember you were there at the premiere. Yeah.
You do?
Yes, I do. I do.
What was I wearing?
You were in, no, that was the other one, had the long wig on. No, that wasn't you, yes.
And in 1973, another success, you played no less than 8 Shakespearean characters in Theater of Blood.
Yes, it's the best horror movie I ever made, Theater of Blood.
And here's what Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times has to say about Theater of Blood. If horror pictures were taken as seriously in America as they are all over the world, then Theater of Blood should receive an Academy Award.
Yeah, I love that.
And let us not forget, Vincent, your latest picture, in which you play, of all things, a horror picture star in the soon-to-be-released Madhouse.
Oh, why didn't he take me and let you live? Now he must die. The Dr. Death that we created, he must die. I am not afraid. There is always room for more in the coffin of time. The instinct is alive within me. And you, Dr. Death, are you afraid? No. No, you're going home. Come. Lights! Camera! Action! Now I must play the final scene. The death of Dr. Death.
Vincent Price, you are a wonderful credit to the motion picture industry, and tonight, in your honor, the Horror Hall of Fame and your friends are all waiting with a big party at Forest Lawn. They'll be dancing till all hours of the morning to the music of the Grateful Dead, and a free gift certificate for a burial at sea.
Oh, that's marvelous. That's marvelous.
Vincent Price, that was your life. Thank you.
Well, that great moment has arrived when Dr. Murray Frankenstein will unveil his great super monster. If any of you frighten easily, I beg of you, please put on a blindfold. Frankenstein! Dr. Frankenstein! Murray! Dr. Frankenstein, what happened?
Monster! You went mad! Berserk!
Oh, yes, of course. It's the old monster who goes bananas and runs through the wall.
He's escaped! My child, my beautiful child! My 25 years of work! I must find him.
Zuckman, which way did he go?
I really don't know.
Oh, dear.
I am going to find my monster, Mr. Price. And when I do, is he gonna get it?
Friends, I'm afraid we lost our monster. Now, if any of you should see a 9-foot, one blue-eyed, hairy, slimy creature wandering around your neighborhood, would you kindly send him back to the Horror Hall of Fame at once? The poor darling forgot his galoshes. Which way did you say he went?
Well, actually, Florence left a message for him.
Forget it.
Candy Clark. Candy Clark. Oh, Candy!
Thank you, Zuckman. And thank you, all my friends, for a marvelous evening. Oh, would you get me my cane and my cake? And thank you all for visiting with me in the Horror Hall of Fame. I trust we'll meet again sometime in a crypt or a catacomb or in a fog or a cemetery or a supermarket. Who knows? Good night.